Hi, this is your host, Jeff Ragavin, and you're listening to Marketing Mix, where we hear from some of the most influential CMOs of today to discuss the strategies of tomorrow. Welcome to Marketing Mix. Today we've got Matt Repicky. Matt is the CMO of Genexa. Matt, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So Matt, really exciting stuff. You're now the CMO over at Genexa, and you've spent so much of your career at Mattel. Would love to hear from you, like right off the bat, why Genexa, and tell us a little bit about the business.
So when I was in my recent stint at Mattel working on the Barbie brand, where I led global brand marketing for 4 years, one of the things that we really focused on and an insight that we got from consumers was that they were looking for brands with a purpose or brands with a social value set. And a lot of brands, at least at that time, didn't have one, or if they had a purpose, they weren't communicating it to customers. And we found with Barbie that when we identified that purpose, which was to inspire that limitless potential in girls, that became sort of a lightning rod for consumers, and it really changed their perception for the brand. And so when I was introduced to the founders here at Genexa, one of the things that immediately struck me was they were two dads looking for cleaner medicines for their kids. And so the purpose was inherent in why the company began. And I felt that there was something really meaningful and an amazing opportunity to communicate that purpose to consumers. And so the premise of the company is to take traditional, conventional over-the-counter medicines and strip out the preservatives, the fillers, binders, artificial dyes, and create something that is organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, lactose-free, oftentimes vegan. And it really is filling this nascent space in that I think for a long time, consumers have been looking for, say, organic produce. And then it was, okay, how do I get better cleaning products in my home? And, recently there's been clean beauty with companies like Beauty Counter, but no one's really tackling the over-the-counter space. And so I think what Genexa can offer customers is, a cleaner, healthier, safer alternative to the things that they're taking today.
So do you think with, over-the-counter medicines being more healthy and organic and, doesn't have all of that filler, is that what makes Genexa a disruptor in the space, or is it something else?
Immediately that makes us a disruptor in the space. No one else is doing it to the degree that we're doing it. Oftentimes we're the only dual or, tri-cert product in a category. And so I think right off the bat, that sets us apart, and it's an amazing point of difference. You look at the side of a carton from a conventional medicine, and there's a list of 12, 15, 20 inactive ingredients, most of which you can't pronounce, and you certainly don't know why they're there, what they're doing. And that's, I think, one of the key points of difference for Genexa is everything we put in these products. We know why it's there. We can tell you why. We can tell you, sort of what its purpose is. And so that leads me into, I think, the second way that we're really breaking through with consumers is our transparency. It's really important to us to be able to communicate to consumers the state of the industry today, and in comparison, what Genexa is offering. There was a study released about 5 months ago from a number of researchers at MIT that found that in over-the-counter meds today, 92% of them have an allergen. So you're taking a medicine, it's there to solve one symptom, you're potentially having some other side effect, not knowing why. And Genexa solves for that.
A product like this in particular, you really have to create trust with your customers. So from like a marketing perspective, how are you guys doing that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I mean, you look at consumer behavior today, and until I started working at Genexa, I took the same over-the-counter meds that, my mom gave me as a child, and she probably took the things that her mom gave her as a child, so on and so forth. And so there's this kind of, institutionalized thought around what's good for you and what you should be taking to solve your symptoms. And so we do have a challenge in terms of gaining a consumer's trust, and while letting them know what exists today, also not being threatening or scary about it. And so I think education is one of the biggest things that we're working on, is how do we come out and start to educate consumers on, here's what you're taking today, here's what's in it, here's what some possible impacts of those ingredients could be. But even if what you're taking today isn't harmful, what we're offering is just a cleaner alternative. And if it's going to treat you the same, why wouldn't you take something that's ultimately going to be better for you? And so, one of the ways that we're doing that is through our website. And so the focus right now on our site, because we're fortunate enough to have robust brick and mortar distribution, we have a robust Amazon business, Our site isn't really focused on consumer sales so much as it is an educational tool and sharing with consumers, again, the state of the industry and why Genexa is different. And then we're also serving that up through social media and using that as a platform to really get in front of our core consumer who, in our case, happens to be a mom. She is the primary purchaser of over-the-counter meds for the family. And so using Facebook, Instagram, social media tools, again, to get in front of her. And, it's not just about here's this cool product, but it's about really dissecting and peeling back the onion, if you will, about, what goes into how we create our products and why that matters.
I was going to say to you from a retail perspective, like you guys are literally in over 15,000 stores, right? So everything from CVS to GNC and Bed Bath and Beyond. You just said, your site is really meant for a, education and learning, but is there like a large component of it that people are actually purchasing through the website?
We definitely have a great direct to consumer business. And I think what's really great to see is that with a number of our products, we have a lot of repeat purchase, repeat behavior, because again, customers are finding that our products are effective. They like that it's a cleaner version of what they maybe already be taking. And so they're coming back for more. I guess it's just to say that I think with a lot of companies, when your only channel is direct to consumer, it causes you to position yourself in a certain way. And I think we have the benefit of not needing to only lean on direct to consumer to drive our business. And frankly, with medicines, you don't want to wait 2-3 days to receive a package in the mail, right? You want to solve your symptom or your children's symptoms more immediately. And that's where having placement in places like CVS, Vitamin Shop, Whole Foods is really important.
I had a couple of questions for you just because of your background at Amazon. So I thought this could be very interesting to pick your brain a little bit. So for one, I would imagine that Amazon is probably an important component of your strategy. Are you guys doing anything on Amazon right now as far as like paid strategy?
Yeah, no, Amazon is definitely an important part of our strategy. And, we've been using a variety of ad products to make sure that we're harnessing our loyal customers who we already know have an affinity for what we're doing, and making sure that they're aware as we bring out new products, of which we have a really robust product development pipeline, which is fantastic, and so we're consistently bringing new offerings to customers. But it's similarly just as important to, like I said before, drive that education and awareness and let people know that we exist. And so, we've been looking at how do we sort of navigate the funnel, if you will, or the customer journey so that, shows up from search products all the way up to, we just are launching some video through Fire Tablet, and we're working on, some other things in terms of live deals and really testing and learning to see, where can we get the best response, understanding that when we're looking to drive awareness for the brand and the company and what our products offer, it might be a little bit of a longer tail potentially before we see that conversion impact. But we want to make sure that we're tackling again that broader audience. And I think Amazon again offers the ability to really flex and test things out in a way that we can't do offline. But like I said before, offline, both from a retail perspective as well as offline marketing tactics, are still important. And I'm a huge believer in sort of that marketing ecosystem. And so while we do have a robust set of ad products that we're using on Amazon, and again, seeing sort of how they work for us in different ways, it's also important that we're showing up to the customer both outside of Amazon from a digital perspective as well as in offline tactics.
I saw, and I'm curious what your take on this is also, spending some time at Amazon. There was a product that was being advertised through paid, on Amazon for a brand. And when you went and clicked through on the product that was being promoted, there was this little pop-up that came up and said, hey, we have a product that's very similar. That's our own, it's cheaper. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is crazy. One, because it's like you're buying inventory from an ad perspective to promote your product. But then Amazon is saying, hey, here's another product that we make that's cheaper. And that to me is like a major threat. And I'm just curious, like, how are brands, especially on the CPG side, navigating that?
It's a really interesting question, and I haven't actually seen that myself. But, I would say a couple of things. One, if you're talking about what you could call private label, that exists today in, the offline retail environment, and especially in over-the-counter meds, right? Where you see, here's your your brand name Benadryl, and next to it is here is X pharmacy or X, grocery store's version of Benadryl. And so that is certainly something that exists, and haven't seen our category, on Amazon in the private label space yet, but it's definitely something that I think generally, CPG brands have to stay ahead of, and that's where building brand equity is an important part of my job. I think, the second thing that strikes me is I read recently how, Amazon is definitely trying to grow their presence in, the sort of private label space. But what they're finding is that they're actually seeing more success with exclusivity on brand labels than they are on their own. And so that sort of struck me as they're using the tactics that you just called out to see, if they can be effective. But I think what they might be finding is that they haven't spent the time to build up the brand equity behind it. And so why is someone buying, a generic Amazon version of something when, I think what they're finding is more success with, hey, we actually have this Genexa product exclusively to Amazon, and that is a little bit more important to consumers.
Got it. Okay, very cool. So anything else, at least for a lot, we have a lot of folks that are listening in, and I think at this point now, something like 10,000 marketing executives tune into the podcast every week. And so we have so many great guests on the show, and, we haven't really had anybody on before that is, over at Amazon, and you obviously led a marketing team over there too. So any maybe tips or best advice for people who are trying to get into advertising on Amazon that you could maybe give a few pointers?
Sure. I guess I'll start by saying I had a really amazing opportunity when I was at Amazon because I was working in their fashion business, which is a space that, they're focused on growing. So it gave me as a marketer some latitude internally to try things out that probably weren't traditionally done if I had been on, a core business out of Seattle. And so what that meant to me was that, there was some appetite, even though, there's this drive for efficiency, there is appetite to test and learn and to, sort of think differently in growing your category, your business within Amazon. And now being sort of on the other side of the proverbial fence, I would say that, it is, it definitely takes effort to create a partnership with, your Amazon account exec team or your Amazon partners. But I definitely think it's worthwhile because again, on their side, they're being tasked to grow, to look innovative in terms of the way that they're bringing, new brands and products onto the site. And so I would say, from the brand side, if you have ideas or things that you want to try that maybe you haven't seen on Amazon before, definitely still pitch it and pursue it. Because I would say, you sort of never know where you're going to land. I think, one of the interesting things throughout the course of, my career coming from this sort of digital space, within Amazon, and then going back to Mattel and the Barbie brand, where we certainly had an Amazon business, but, the majority of those sales were happening at Walmart. And so, and also on a brand that's has 99% global awareness, on to now a brand like Genexa, but it's a completely different category. I think as a marketer, some advice that I would give is just around, being flexible and not getting too set in your ways. I think, from just a sort of shift in category perspective, every day there's something new coming out. Consumers are looking for different. And I think also there's just a change in marketing tactics. And, for how many years now we've all relied on social media or digital advertising and, what is the click-through rate? And consumer behavior has shifted and people aren't clicking. They're getting exposed to your display ad much like they would a billboard driving down the street. They're not engaging in it the same way that they used to. And so our point of view and our metrics have to change in terms of how we're looking at the impact of that work.
Quick question that just popped in my head, especially being in this, clean medicine market. And I don't know if this impacts you guys as well, but it's something that I've been seeing everywhere, whether you're in California or New York. And that's, the rise of CBD. And so I'm just wondering, from a company perspective, like, does that present a threat to Genexa or even a greater opportunity for growth?
I think that's something that we're looking at really carefully and want to make sure that we're stepping into appropriately. I would say CBD is definitely on a lot of people's radars. Right. You're seeing it eke into what I would call mass market. CVS is now carrying CBD products as an example. But I think, there's not a federal law state by state. So that provides complexity and also somewhat limits your ability to scale. And, I think it's also about taking the time to make sure that we're doing the right level of research, the right level of consumer input. So I would say, for us, it's definitely something that we're aware of and we're tracking on a very regular basis. But I think we have so much sheer opportunity just in tackling the products that people have been taking, for years as it is before we even go into, the sort of brand new nascent space that we don't see a rush to get there.
From an overall marketing mix perspective, when you're thinking about, where you're spending, for Genexa, is there and you don't have to give all of the details, but I'm just curious, like if you had one channel where you're going to be spending most of your
Sure.
dollars, like
I would
where are you
say,
guys spending that and
I'll
why?
say digital ad products generally is that channel. So that's split between Amazon and off Amazon, if you will. But I think one of the learnings that I had coming out of my time on the Barbie brand was the importance of digital placements as a drumbeat and a foundation for consumer awareness. And one of the things that we found on Barbie was if we were, and I've seen this, espoused elsewhere, when we're running digital continually and then we run something like television or radio, it helps to amplify and provide longevity to the total buy. When we paused digital on the Barbie brand, and then we went into consumer insights, people forgot the work. Obviously, everyone knows Barbie, but people couldn't recall the work to the same degree that they had when we were consistently in front of them. And so using that as a learning, I feel like here at Genexa, because general awareness is such an important factor for us, and a strong investment in digital, has to be sort of the number one priority. And like I said, a lot of that is focused on Amazon because we know that it has a larger impact than just to an Amazon customer. But also, showing up in the right place from a programmatic display perspective, a YouTube perspective, what are the right search products, so on and so forth.
Cool. So, Matt, I
Yep.
don't know if you've listened to the show in the past, but one of the reasons that we call it marketing mix is because we talk about marketing and strategies and all that great,
Sounds
fun,
good.
day to day stuff that you do at work. But then we also mix it up with a little bit of rapid fire, kind of fun, questions to get to know you a little better. So, these are just, very simple rapid fire questions. Just kind of think the first thing that comes to your mind. And if you need to think about it for a second, that's all right too. So, you ready? Okay. Who was the last person you felt inspired by?
You know who I look to and has actually just announced that she's stepping out of this role, but Marissa Thalberg, who had been at Taco Bell or has been at Taco Bell, and I think has done some really, really innovative work there, is someone that I've been watching from afar. I have really been struck by, again, like talk about taking an iconic American brand and doing new things with it and keeping it fresh and relevant. And their sort of Palm Springs hotel concept, I thought was a really fun and brilliant way to kind of like get people excited about tacos. So I would say that she's someone who's recently inspired.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had Marissa on the show way early on when we. Yeah, so you definitely should listen to that one because she did an amazing job and lots of great insight. Okay, what's the one thing you've always wanted to be good at?
I would say that I definitely have a creative streak, and I think it suits me in the general roles that I've had, where I'm either managing creative directors or working side by side with creative directors. But I've always wished that I could be really good at design myself.
Okay, so now when you're out of the office and it's the weekend, what's your favorite thing to do?
I like to be on a bike, so whether that's a road bike or more recently Soul Cycle bike, but getting out there, doing some cardio, exercising. It's a really important piece of my weekend every weekend.
Very good. All right, what's the one simple thing that still blows your mind?
Wow, that's a great question. I think air travel. I'm an AV geek and have traveled millions of miles in my career, and it always gets me that I can hop on a plane and 10 hours later I'm on a completely different continent, thousands of miles away.
I'm with you. You're in like this giant metal tube, right? It's like taking you from point A to point B. It's like still blows my mind too. So I'm with you. Okay, what's your most radical belief?
I don't know that I would call it radical, but I think one of the things that has steered me and always done me right throughout my career is, never resting on the status quo and always trying to push. And it doesn't always make for easy conversations. And it is never sort of the simple solution to getting something done. But I feel like if you believe in something, always advocate for it and don't give up.
Nice. And finally, what's your favorite food?
Wow. I have to say my mom's peach pie.
With ice cream?
Nope, just as is.
Awesome. Well, Matt, listen, this has been great. It's been really great to, kind of get a little bit of insight from you and hear about what you're working on now. And so we appreciate you coming on the show. We're going to be looking out for a lot of cool stuff coming out of Genexa.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it.